A man whose dog would feed one of those migrant families in Springfield for an entire month. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on a church, get on a mandate. You get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Excited to speak to friend of the show, Bill O'Reilly, with another triumph. New book, Confronting the Presidents, No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden. And, of course, Martin DeGard, who's been on the show as well, co-authored. Good to speak to you again, my friend.
Are you talking to me, my friend? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very big compliment from you, Carolla. Thank you.
You know, it was funny. I literally did Megyn Kelly's show 2 days ago, and we were talking about all the fake nice stuff, Kamala Harris specifically, but all just the Rosie O'Donnell's old version of 1.0 Rosie O'Donnell, all the BS niceness and all the people that are horrible people that are faking nice. And she goes, well, that's what I like about O'Reilly. I walk in, he doesn't pretend to be nice. He just goes, how you doing, Kelly? And then they start the show. And I said, I do like that as well. What do you think of nice?
No time for trivialities, Carolla, and I'm making an exception doing this program, but no time. I'm a Levittown, Long Island guy, and, we didn't do the Eddie Haskell thing here, the Leave It to Beaver legend. Oh, Mrs. Cleaver, what a nice dress you have today. No, we don't do that. So I treat everybody the same. I think I'm a fair man, but I'm not kissing anybody's posterior, and I'm just me. And it's a take it or leave it situation.
And I agree, and I do feel like a lot of the pleasantries are a waste of time, but I also realize that's why a lot of people think I'm a douchebag. But Bill, these books, I mean, my God, prolific, and now your latest offering, which can be available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever you find finer books. So I know you always take a deep dive into the subject matter. I know it's not a situation where you're just putting your name on something, and we've gotten into it in the past, and many different subjects, from pop culture to American Indians and gangsters from the 40s and 30s, and we've gotten into all of it. And you do your homework and you take your deep dive. So, what did you learn writing this book?
Everything. Every page I learned stuff. And that's why we open the book. And we are, by the way, the best-selling nonfiction authors in the world, Carolla, which is my third grade nun would have a heart attack if she were still alive and die, because nobody even thought I would be able to read a book, much less write a book. I was a little thug. I opened a book with George Washington, and the sentence is, George Washington is mad at his mother. Washington's mother did not like him and humiliated him, wrote letters to the local Virginia newspaper saying, my son Georgie is starving me to death.
Wow.
We got a hold of those letters. Okay?
Wow.
It drove General Washington absolutely crazy. He's fighting the Revolutionary War, and his mother is killing him, saying that he's a cruel son. The genesis of it was when Washington was a teenager, his father died, leaving him the estate, not the nutty wife. I think Washington's mom was a little, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. But that feud lasted Washington's entire life. He did not go to his own mother's funeral.
Wow. So
did they teach you that in high school about George Washington? Every page of Confronting the Presidents, we have stuff like that. And it's not just a gossip book. I did this to humanize these 45 men, to say, look, they weren't we have a tendency to mythologize our presidents, okay? Not anymore, but we used to. And I said, no, these were regular human beings, some good, some bad. We lay it out, you make the decision on which ones helped and which ones hurt the country.
So, and obviously we go forward to today. I saw a tweet yesterday that basically said, Biden's been, out of the cockpit for several months now, let's just say, and Kamala Harris is traveling around doing a debate prep and, kissing babies, and nothing has changed in the country. So the folks that have the kind of conspiracy theory, which really isn't even a conspiracy theory, that there's a sort of cabal of people that run the country and we don't essentially need a president or vice president because things just run on while these people are either busy or incapacitated, seem to have some evidence that that's true now.
Always been that way. Andrew Johnson, who took over when Lincoln was assassinated. I mean, this guy, it was staggering. He couldn't run the country. He didn't understand anything. Then you go to a guy like Warren Harding. Warren Harding had no interest in running in the United States. He wanted to get drunk and play cards with his corrupt cronies. And that's what he did. Woodrow Wilson didn't even run the country for the last 2 years of his administration. He had a stroke. His wife ran the country. So Joe Biden has never been in charge, ever. He has a team, and they tell him, here's your schedule. Jill Biden, the wife, has to sign off on it. And this is what we think you should do. And here's the speech we wrote for you. And that's how he governs. That's not unusual. It has happened, not many times, but sometimes in the past. And we, the people, don't know that. So I, every day on the No Spin News, my television broadcast, chronicled Biden's official schedule. Never had anything on it. And once in a while, the president of Romania would wander over and they'd have a little dinner, but it wasn't like he was working to solve any problems. And I believe that Joe Biden is the second worst president in American history because he created problems for the country. Most of the incompetent presidents inherited them and couldn't solve them. Herbert Hoover, Great Depression. Okay, Lyndon Johnson, Vietnam. They were terrible presidents, but they didn't create the problem. Biden did and has, and he's staggeringly bad. And now Kamala used to say he's the greatest president. Now, a little waffling on that a little bit. If you saw the debate, Kamala's going, I'm running against me, not Joe Biden. Hey, lady, for 3.5 years, everything that Biden said and did, you propped up. So you are Joe Biden, and Trump was right in saying that.
Well, she said things like with the pullout of Afghanistan, she was the last person in the room, which I'm sure she wasn't.
Crazy.
I'm sure she wasn't, right. But she got baited into proudly announcing that several years ago, and it should be rubbed in her face now. Now, what it is she was not making the decision. I'm sure she was not the last person in the room, but she was taking credit for it back when it was popular to take credit for it. Then it turned into a full-blown humanitarian disaster, and now she's trying to distance herself from it. But I'm interested. You said second worst president. Who was first?
James Buchanan.
Oh, not Carter. Where's Jimmy Carter land?
He's in the top 10 worst, way in over his head, just overwhelmed.
But Buchanan. Would Carter be top 5?
No.
Really?
Because he had a lot of corrupt guys.
Ah, I see.
He had a lot of guys that were, making money. And, you take a look at guys like Franklin Pierce, and then Martin Van Buren, Benjamin Harrison. Ooh, these guys were bad. But Biden is unique in the sense that he figured out, and his people figured out, that they could get elected by running against Trump because so many people hated Trump. Harris is doing the exact same thing. But if Americans vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for somebody you don't know. But what we do know is that she is the most radical left progressive ever to appear on a major party presidential ticket, ever. Mm-hmm. Obama is second. Now, getting back to Jimmy Buchanan, why was he the worst? At the time, in 1856, and I believe you were born in then.
James Buchanan, I'm looking down,
Right.
1857, it says, to 1861, according to my
He won the
list.
presidency in 1856. He took over in 57. Mm-hmm. At that time, the South was basically arming itself to declare war on the North over slavery. Mm-hmm. Buchanan could have stopped that in its infancy by sending federal forces down to Mississippi, to Georgia, South Carolina, and arresting these rebels. Mm-hmm. I have a letter in my collection from Harry Truman that said if Andrew Jackson had been president at the time, Civil War never would have happened. Mm-hmm. But Buchanan was a coward. He was afraid to do anything. And so he didn't do anything. It was so bad that Union forces were on an island outside of Charleston, South Carolina, Fort Sumter. You may have heard of that. That was attacked by the Confederates. It started the Civil War. Well, the commander of Fort Sumter, a year before, asked Buchanan to send reinforcements, food, and ammunition. Buchanan didn't send it, leaving those Union soldiers stranded there. Mm-hmm. Nobody does that. It's almost like sedition. Mm-hmm. So he was by far the worst president. Biden can't touch him because more than 1 million Americans died as a result of the Civil War, and obviously it was the worst thing that ever happened in this country.
When you talk about Biden's self-inflicted wounds to the country, what are some examples of that?
Open border, number one, the biggest one, okay? So nobody's ever explained why on day one, all right, he signs an executive order reversing the Remain in Mexico policy, which is working, and the alien encounters were down to about 750,000 under Trump's last year. So he throws it out and says, hey, anybody in the world, come on in, just ask for asylum. We'll let you go. You can live anywhere you want, and we'll pay for all of it. Why would you do that? Never been explained. Kamala can't explain it. That's exactly what happened. Then inflation. Trump toddles out the door, and Trump didn't even go to Biden's inauguration, interestingly enough. That was very unusual. Okay. Trump toddles out the door at 1.4%. Within a year, inflation is more than 9%. Why? Because number one, on day one, Joe Biden signs all the regulations inhibiting the fossil fuel industry, the harvesting of oil. So the oil companies go, whoa, we're going to have to pay 10 times more to get the oil out of the ground. We're going to start charging people now, and all gas prices double. And when the gas prices double, the food prices double because you get the food from the trucks. That's what Biden did.
And you say that's what Biden did, but did he even do it, or just his cabal
his
around him
progressive handlers?
Told him to do it? Yeah,
right. The climate change people said, "Oh, we need the windmills. You got to inhibit the fossil fuels." Biden said, "Okay, can I go to the beach now? Can I go to the Rehoboth now? Okay." I'm telling you, Americans do not understand how bad this man governed. And by extension, that's Kamala Harris, who everything that Biden did, yay, yay. So Kamala was appointed to find the root causes of the open border. The root causes were Biden not knowing what he was doing. I could have told you didn't have to go anywhere. That was 5 minutes. Here's the root cause of the open border. Biden. Right there, him.
Why do you think the legacy media is so invested in Kamala Harris, and before that Biden, and before that Hillary Clinton? Like, sometimes I think about it from just a pragmatic standpoint. Like, for instance, most Jews are progressive or vote Democrat, let's say, but they're really voting against their values and sometimes against their own interest, you know? And then there's a lot of people that are well-to-do that vote Democrat or would be voting for Kamala Harris, but they're sort of voting against their own interests. I live in California. California is a disaster. and there's homeless everywhere, and there's illegal aliens everywhere, and taxes and crime and everything, and we overwhelmingly vote for this and more of this. But why the legacy media? Like, we saw the debate. ABC, you can always tell. People show their cards with little tells. Like, for instance, and you'll see this a lot, and I think it flies in one ear and out the other for a lot of people. But when the moderator is saying to Trump, you claimed to have won the last election, they don't say you claimed to have won the last election. They say you falsely claimed to have won the last election. Now, falsely is sort of the operative word there, because if you're even Steven and you're running down the middle, then you claimed to win the last election, just like you'd say you claimed to your roommate you didn't make this mess in the kitchen, and I think you did. But if you add falsely, now we know where you stand, because you can still present the question and the person can still answer the question. But what's ABC got, other than that is sort of their politics, to the people who work there, but what's in it for them to make sure that Trump isn't elected and Kamala Harris is? Why does it benefit them? And aren't they worried about everyone saying what they always do, which is don't listen to those guys, they're in the bag for the other side?
That's some question, Carolla. My God.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was a correspondent for ABC News. I worked with Peter Jennings, a correspondent for CBS News. I worked with Dan Rather. The network news operations, the three of them, and now by extension MSNBC is cable with NBC News, are what they call top-down organizations. You do not defy the people who are above you. So ABC is run by a man named Bob Iger. He's the CEO of Disney. Okay, Disney owns ABC News. Iger is a liberal man. He loves the Hollywood limelight, loves to go for dinner and have everybody go, oh, Bob, how are you? How's things in Malibu? That kind of thing. If you are not a doctrinaire liberal in Hollywood, as you well know, your social activities are cut down.
Yes.
And sometimes your employment activities, all right? So therefore, that's in Hollywood, the mindset is that we know better. We're all enlightened, liberal people. We're woke. We're politically correct. The demon who is most loathed used to be me, but Trump took my place.
That's right.
When Trump came on the scene, at first, the networks and CNN and I said, oh, this is great. We'll get high ratings, but he's a clown and Hillary will wax him. So we'll use him to get the ratings. And then he's president. They got so angry, they being the liberal chieftains that run the entertainment industry. Not only did they vow to attack everything that Trump did, but they blackballed anyone who ever said a kind word about Donald Trump. There isn't one conservative on the air at ABC News, not one, who isn't liberal. Even The View, which says they have a conservative, they don't anymore. Meghan McCain was booted, okay? So when you have an organization of that expanse...
The View on ABC, by the way, yeah.
Right, and that's run by ABC News.
Right.
When you have an organization like ABC News that expansive and you don't have one face on the air in any of your vehicles that's not liberal, not one, what does that say? So when I'm promoting Confronting the Presidents, I come on your show, I do a whole bunch of stuff. I can't get on ABC when I used to get on them all the time. Used to be on Kimmel, used to be on Good Morning America, same thing with NBC, same thing with CBS, okay? Why was I on all the time? Because I delivered huge ratings every time I walked in the door. So they benefited from me, all right? And there was no Trump then. So they say, we'll put this nut O'Reilly on, we'll get our pop in the ratings, and it doesn't really matter. Now it's all personal. And I'm not a Trump booster, by the way. I report on him honestly, but that's not good enough. You can't say anything good about him and go into that circle. Now, in New York, the corporate media here where I am, it's similar. All right? These people think they're elevated above the folks. They know better. And the progressive view is the best way to go because whatever reason they apply it, okay? But most of all, it's social.
Right.
That they can go out to the parties. And the same thing in D.C. So anybody that's not in the liberal world is shunned. And that's what it's all about.
Well,
people say, oh.
Yeah, no, I'm going to add to that because it's social and it's professional and financial in that in Hollywood, in the business we're in, we're not pipe fitters and we don't work MIG or TIG welders. It's a kind of who you know. You know, there are many different people who could play many different roles. You know, whenever they talk about a movie, they go, you know, who originally was supposed to play George Clooney's part, originally, it keeps going because they're interchangeable and they get it. They get it. There's a handful of people that are writers and or actors or comedians or what have you that are so talented that they're not affected by any social politics, any parties, anything. And then there's everybody. Very few. There's very few. And there are guys that are really good like David Mamet. And guys like David Mamet can talk about his views politically and still sell plays and work. It's going to hurt. It'll ding him a little bit, but he can do it. But most everyone else, you talk about cocktail party. Yeah, they want to go to the cocktail party, but they want to go to the cocktail party so they can get their next job. So it's not just the cocktail party. It's the cocktail party and the bank account and your career, and it all bleeds. It's all interactive, and it bleeds into one another. So it's not just completely social. There's a pragmatic side to this. But
it is a top-down industry, and the CEOs, the people who run and make the decisions on who to hire, they are not going to go out of that liberal bubble.
No.
Because then they'll lose their job. Okay. And the result is that the movie industry is in tatters, okay? I don't know when the last time I went to theater, I think was Oppenheimer, okay? I mean, it's garbage, up and down. Nobody goes to the movies. The music industry, and that obviously is involved with this too. I mean, if I hear another rap song about somebody taunting the F word, I mean, this is just, I mean, Taylor Swift comes out, as you know, oh, I'm going to endorse Kamala Harris. Okay, I mean, Taylor's American. She can endorse whoever she wants. But if Taylor Swift came out and endorsed Donald Trump, Taylor Swift's business would take a hit.
Yes.
Okay? Because her talent agency, her record agency, her PR agency, they're all tied into this cabal.
Yes.
So she's not a stupid woman. And she goes, oh, yeah, I love Kamala. She's the best. Now, if you or me are interviewing Taylor Swift about geopolitics, Carolla, how do you think that's going to come out for her?
Well, we're going to find out Wednesday when she's in studio for a full 3 hours from yeah, I don't know that she would sit down with either one of us. It's not going to turn out well. And I agree. No. And I think it's how you know that a certain percentage of people in the industry or public type people, a certain percentage of them who come out for Kamala Harris actually really believe in Kamala Harris and are very earnest and sincere. But there's another group that is doing it for financial purposes.
Sure, but social purposes.
I would say almost
100%
100% who come out with Trump believe it because it's not helping their bottom line. Except a rare occasion like Kid Rock, maybe, or someone like that. I don't know.
What do people who are passionate about supporting Kamala Harris, what do they believe in? We don't know.
They hate Trump.
Well, they hate Trump. Okay.
Right. That's
but let's put him aside.
Okay.
Just her. Just her.
Well,
what are you supporting there? What is the positive that this politician can bring to this country. If you look at her philosophy, it's so far left, Fidel Castro would be embarrassed.
Yeah.
All right? He wants you and me, Carolla, to pay for everybody's trans operation, even if you're an illegal alien.
Yeah, it is. Listen,
it's crazy.
Look, there is a move. This country is moving toward a sort of feminization of this country, and it's not purely a philosophy. A lot of it is testosterone levels are down, sperm counts are down, too much plastics in the environment, finding literally like microplastics in the brain and stuff. There's a trend where men are starting to move in that direction toward the feminine. And the feminine likes the hugs and the mamala and the good vibes. And there's a woman crying at a spice store and we're going to hug it out. And I'm going to tell her everything's okay. The men want to talk about the military in China, in Russia, and the border and capital gains taxes and all that. But as we move toward the feminine, the politicians catch on which way the wind is blowing, and so does Madison Avenue. Look at Madison Avenue. I say this a lot, but I don't believe you've heard this one, Bill, and I'll lay it out on you. You and I are old enough to remember watching TV commercials. TV commercials are there just to grab America. Like, what is America thinking? How do we speak to them? How do we get them to buy our product? Car commercials were always about powertrain, warranties, torque, horsepower, sticker price, rust proofing. They had an engine warranty. They had a transmission warranty. They had a rust proofing warranty. Now it's Subaru, made with love, lesbian couple, mixed race, going to the mountains. They've rescued a dolphin and they're heading back to sea. I mean, there's these commercials. There was a Volvo commercial where a guy just sat in his Volvo, a father, and he wrote a note to his daughter who was getting married and just cried in his Volvo. I don't know what the sticker price of the Volvo was. I don't know if it has a V6 or V8 or a straight four. They realized that we are feminized and we like mamala more than we like tough talk about the border. So that's where they're going. And you and I are amazed that someone would buy a car without knowing what the warranty was, the gas mileage, the torque, the horsepower, the weatherproofing. That seems bizarre to us. Why would you buy this car? You don't know anything about this car. And I would say, the other side would say, because I feel good. And that's really what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the Subaru commercial versus built Ford tough.
It's not countrywide. It's California, it's New York, it's Massachusetts, it's Illinois. And the societies there have now evolved. One of our best-selling items on BillO'Reilly.com store is the Not Woke mug. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many thousands of these we have sold.
Right.
Okay? So it's not everywhere, but you're correct. There is a tempo that is imposed by the media on each section of the country. And in the middle of the country, we don't have this mamala stuff. And mamala won't carry very few states, no matter how crazy Trump gets. They'll still vote for Trump in the South and the Midwest. Most of the states will. But the danger is that the media, which is the one thing that controls the mind of America, and I'm talking social media too here, they have all bought into woke.
Yes.
And that's why you're seeing the big shift.
Home chef drowning in a sea of meal kit options. It's like a bad dating game show. Contestants all look the same. You don't want that. You want home chef, fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Over 30 options a week covering a variety of dietary needs. Let's see, the one I tried recently I like the best is salmon with miso butter and green beans. Oh, so good. I don't know who invented miso butter, but they should be in the Butter Hall of Fame. Classic kits with pre-portioned ingredients, speedy recipes, ready in less than 30 minutes. oven-ready kits with pre-chopped ingredients and microwavable meals in minutes as well. Save an average of $86 a month on groceries. That's right. You can't get out of the grocery store these days. It's too expensive, man. You have to drop off gold ingots there. Now, this is cheaper, and this is better, and you save money. Home Chef even has a delicious, kid-friendly family menu with 18 new options each week. Picky eaters approved. So let's get some Home Chef and get going. Right, Dawson?
For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 18 free meals, plus free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box. Go to homechef.com/Adam. That's homechef.com/Adam for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. You heard that right. Homechef.com/Adam. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. They're in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly offers friendly, helpful service and the parts and knowledge you'll need for all your maintenance and repairs. That's right. It's not just about maintenance. You got to repair it every once in a while yourself. I've been going to O'Reilly since, knee-high to a bull weevil? I don't know what they say, grasshopper. I've always gone to O'Reilly. I used to live up in the hills in La Crescenta. I'd go to the one up on Foothill. Still there. Passed it the other day. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in store or online, so you'll never have to worry if you're in a jam. The team at O'Reilly Auto Parts can test your battery for free in or out of your car, which is nice. You don't have to pull it. If it needs to be replaced, they'll help you find the right battery for your vehicle. Need your windshield wipers replaced, brake light fixed, quick service, they'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help as well. Whether you're a car aficionado or an auto novice, you'll find the team at O'Reilly knowledgeable, helpful, and best of all, friendly. So the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto, do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in the store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. So back to the debate, and I have a couple of clips that I would like to share with you, although they're not written anywhere. I can see them, so we could probably rectify that. But I had a couple of clips, and I constantly sort of, and there's the greatest hits, good and bad, and pro and con. And I'd be curious of your overall take of the debate overall. What was your takeaway?
No winners. So if you're going to vote for Trump before the debate, you're still going to vote for him. Same thing with Kamala. Kamala did not hurt herself, which is what the Trump people were hoping. She didn't do the word salad. That's a cliche now, but she was able to articulate the answers that she memorized. It was all memorization, okay? Now, Biden couldn't do that any longer, which is why he became befuddled and disconnected. He didn't know what he was talking about. But she was able to execute, hope and joy, and we need this, we did that. Never answered a question. And I ran that down on my news broadcast, No Spin News. I just played clip after clip after clip of her being asked a very simple question, like, would you support any restrictions on abortion? Won't answer. Do you believe that Americans are better off now than 4 years ago? Didn't answer. How would you solve the Gaza ceasefire? No clue. All right. Oh, we're working around the clock. Her answer was, we're working around the clock. Working to do what? What are you doing? Can't say. Doesn't know.
Right.
My thesis is, based upon watching her very intently now, that she does not understand the problems. It's not that she doesn't have a solution. She doesn't. She doesn't even understand them, which is why they keep her away from all interviews, all press conferences. And they say to her, you got 90 minutes on a stage with a guy that's loathed by millions of Americans, who's probably going to say dopey stuff, which he did, Trump. Okay, all you got to do is, no matter what they ask you, say this. And she did.
Right.
And then you see afterward, oh, she won the debate. Won it how? On what merit did she win? That she didn't fall down? Is that the standard? I learned nothing. Did you learn anything from that debate? I learned not one thing about Kamala Harris in that debate. Nothing. Only that she memorizes well.
No, I didn't learn anything about her policies or where she stands about things. Now, we have to keep in mind that what you discussed is only possible if the environment is friendly. It is not doable if you have an environment that follows up with tough questions and sort of holds your feet to the fire until they get an answer. I think the new world order that I keep noticing with the press is the press understands that optically they cannot avoid certain subjects altogether. So they will ask that question, and then when the person they ask the question to avoids that question, they will move on to the next question and then claim they asked them about this, or I asked Tim Walz about his military, whatever, and then he'll explain he loves this country and he loves his family, and then you'll move on to the next question, but you'll never...
Well, Dana Bash actually said that. She was the only one to interview Kamala Harris, and she said, well, I can't force people to answer the question. That's true, but you can say to the audience, as I always do, you didn't answer the question, madam or sir. Do you want me to ask it again? You can point out the evasion. That's never done, okay? And Trump should have known that. So what Trump should have done, and what I suggested that he do, and I don't think he's watching me nearly enough, is that he should have been the narrator of the debate. He should have narrated real time what was happening. For example, they set Trump up, ABC News did, with a Muir question, David Muir, about, Donald Trump said that if he's reelected, he's going to put people in jail because of the 2020 election. And they lobbed it over to Vice President Harris, this giant beach ball coming on in. And of course, Harris goes, oh, yeah, he's a dictator on day one. Oh, you don't want the Constitution. You know, the biggest softball. What Trump should have done was go, hey, David, do I get a softball like that? Do I get something? You want to ask me about the border and Kamala Harris so I can just wail? You just gave her the biggest softball in the world. But Trump wasn't the narrator. And he had to be to define her and to win the debate. And he just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. If I'm up there against Kamala Harris or you're up there against her, what do you think happens to Kamala Harris? I narrate the whole thing. I tell the whole world what's happening real time. Okay? It's like a wide world of debate. I'm in there. I'm the color commentator.
Yes. You're Chris Economaki.
That's right.
That's a deep cut, O'Reilly. All right. So, I think there's a couple of things. CNN is CNN and Fox is Fox, and I'll explain. A lot of people get lulled. I don't think this happened to Trump, but I think this happens to America, and I've had to explain this to people a lot, and I saw it very clearly during COVID. People would always go, well, there's CNN over here, and there's Fox over there, and CNN lies and Fox lies, and I go, it's not CNN against Fox, it's Fox against CNN and ABC and Reuters and AP and LA Times and New York Times and all the outlets. So first thing first, everyone was poised for CNN when they did the debate with Trump and Biden, like, oh, CNN, like this is going to be fair and balanced. Give me a break, you know? And then they came in and they were balanced about it. They asked questions. I think most people who were expecting, most people on the right who were expecting CNN to be biased sort of sat back and went, well, that was pretty even-handed. I'll give them credit. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. All right, so you go, well, that wasn't too bad. Well, now we're going to ABC. And ABC, in the minds of most Americans, is toward the middle. It's not CNN, it's not MSNBC, it's ABC over here. So Trump will get a fair shake over at ABC. But the reality is you got a fair shake over at left-leaning CNN, but didn't get a fair shake at perceived middle ABC.
It shouldn't matter, though, at this point in history, because Trump knows after what now? Going on 12, 14 years where he's been in the political arena. He knows what the game is.
Yep.
CNN, interestingly enough, is undergoing a course correction. Tapper and Cash were told, you better not tilt it or your jobs will be at stake. I know that. So they didn't. They played it straight. CNN is actually putting me on the air this week, Carolla, talk about confronting the presidents. I was shocked, but they're putting me on. Now, it could be an ambush. They could do something untoward. I don't think they will because I can handle them. But the fact that we got an invitation from CNN shows me that at least they're trying to bring some semblance of opinion that's just not one way to their viewers. Interesting story about Jane Pauley. Okay, so Jane, I don't know her. It's unusual because I've been in this business a long time, and usually everybody cross paths, but I've never, ever met Jane Pauley. But I've always said it's a woman who is pretty responsible. She runs CBS Sunday Morning. They sell a lot of books. So I have my publisher say, look, how about O'Reilly? He'll bring you some ratings when you go on. He's the best-selling nonfiction author in the world. Okay, and confronting the presidents is germane to what's happening in our country today. No. So I wrote an email, a nice email. Carolla, I am capable of being nice, all right?
Sure.
To Jane Pauley. And I said, hey, how you doing? I'm sorry we've never met, but I'd like to meet you. And I have a good book, which I think you find interesting. Think you'd put me on a program. Didn't even reply. That's disrespectful.
Yes.
That's absolutely disrespectful. Then we did a little bit more investigating. This entire year, there have been a lot of books out, a lot of best-selling books. Not one non-liberal has been booked on CBS Sunday Morning. Not one.
Right.
So Jane Pauley, nice Jane, Grandma Jane, hi. She's an ardent leftist because if Jane Pauley wanted somebody on that program, they'd be on that program.
Right.
And this is what people don't understand. We were talking about it before. Jane Pauley's concern is Jane Pauley. And she goes, if I book that monster O'Reilly, I'm going to get dirty looks on the Upper West Side of Manhattan where I live, and I might not be invited to a few of the soirees I want to go to because I invited him on. That's what it's about. This is crazy. Now, I know that, so Trump should know that whenever he goes into these precincts. The other thing is, remember the Dave Clark 5?
Glad all over.
Okay.
I think
so
their hit, we can look it up, is Glad all over.
They had a number of hits, and one of their hits was Any Way You Want It.
Yes.
And the refrain was, any way you want it, that's the way it will be.
Yes.
That's what news organizations on television are.
Right.
Including Fox. Okay?
Yep.
Hey, I know where my audience is. I'm going to tell them exactly what they want to hear. Now, when I was doing The Factor, that didn't happen. Ever. Doesn't happen on the No Spin News. I give my honest opinion, I back it up. But now, the money is made in the choir.
Right.
And they don't go out of it. And so we have a very corrupt system, and Americans are suffering because they're not getting information or they're not getting diverse points of view. Diversity! Where's the diversity?
No.
Well, you're blackballing all people that have maybe ever said something nice about Donald Trump.
I got a clip. Did they sing Glad all over? The Dave Clark 5?
Dave Clark 5, yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm correct on that. We don't have to play the song or anything. I'm just, all right, Dawson, you say yes, they did. Okay, well, good. I had an answer. But the wrong song. But we would be feeling glad all over if there was more diversity of opinion on the news. There you go. I tied it up. I'll play a clip from the debate, and I had a couple of thoughts about it. I want to get your response.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, There's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread
standing.
fraud.
That's the other thing.
All right. So here's what I'd like you to respond to, Bill. David Muir watched all the videos. He studied the videos of Trump, and he declared that he didn't detect the sarcasm because he studied the videos, right? But when Kamala Harris was doing the lie of good people on both sides or the bloodbath or dictator day one, did David study those videos? Did he study the videos? Did he study the other Trump videos about the stuff Kamala Harris was going to bring up, which was easily debunked? Because if you watch the bloodbath video, you know he's talking about the automotive industry, and the dictator video where he's sitting down with Sean Hannity and laughing about closing the border and drilling day one and then not. So did David Muir study any of those videos? And then the question I would have if I was interviewing David Muir is, why didn't you study any of those videos? Or
well,
did you, and are you just lying?
No, I can answer that question for David. David's very busy. All right? He does the World News Tonight every night. And when he was chosen for the debate, they couldn't choose Georgie Stephanopoulos because Georgie is an ardent leftist. Muir doesn't really have an identity, as you pointed out, in front of the American people as an ideologue. And I don't think he is an ideologue, Muir. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think he is. The other one is Lindsey Davis, but not him. But believe me when I tell you that their participation, both Muir and Davis is probably a little more vigilant on it, is basically being handed questions and being handed research. That's all. They're not proactive. They're not thinking about, geez, they're not Mike Wallace or Tim Russert or Bill O'Reilly. They're not thinking about, look, I'm going to ask the best questions I can ask to get the most information for the folks. They're saying, thank you for that research, Sydney or Lorraine. Thank you. Just put it here. I'll look at it. And then we'll decide which questions I should ask and which questions Lindsey should ask and in what order. And that's how they do it. There's no advocacy. There's no, hey, we're going to go after them both, try to rattle them, see what they got. None of that. It's all like a little, do we have any more tea over there or, refreshments?
So, do you believe when they talk about January 6th and they talk about people dying, officers dying at January 6th, which would never happened, or the good people on both sides, are all the things that are very ascertainable? It's all out there. There's video of a lot of stuff. There's records. We know, Officer Sicknick died. He died at his desk. He didn't die from blunt force trauma from a fire extinguisher. He didn't die from inhaling bear spray. He died of a stroke at his desk, after the ride. Do they not know this stuff?
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care. No, that's the furthest thing from their minds. So the biggest falsehood that was uttered on the debate stage, the biggest, number one on the Billboard charts, was Kamala Harris saying that if Donald Trump's elected, he will sign a national ban on abortion. That has never been said, never been uttered. Trump would never do it, all right? It would be suicide. Courts would stop it immediately, all of that. That was not challenged in any way, shape, or form by anybody. Now, once you're at that level, it becomes an exposition where it's almost like watching World Wrestling Association. You know, who's going to hit somebody with the chair the hardest? And nobody's going to stop the guy hitting him with the chair. So who's going to say the biggest whopper? And Kamala Harris won with that incredible statement that is absolutely no basis for it. And there's Muir and Davis going, oh, yeah, okay. Come on.
You know, Trump does not help his case with
of course not,
with his hyperbole. And you know, he's funny. He has so much hyperbole where he literally said at one point, he goes, they say, 10 million people have crossed the border. I think it's more like 21 million people have crossed the border. You know what? I think it's more than that. So he thinks it's higher than he thinks, even. And he doesn't help his case when he does, when I was in charge, it was beautiful. Everyone got along.
Everything was perfect.
It's all, all you have to do is go, they ruined a bunch of stuff, and it's pretty fixable. It's never going to be paradise, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better.
I wrote The United States of Trump, which is a look at the man from the time he was a baby, traces his ancestry back all the way to when he won the White House. And it's a very objective book. There's no ideology in the book. I now believe that Trump has never gotten over The Apprentice, ever. That The Apprentice was a high mark of his life as far as excitement. And in The Apprentice, if you remember it,
I did it.
Trump could say, oh, you were on it. That's right. That's right. Trump could say anything he wanted to say. Anything.
It's true.
It was never challenged. He's the boss. You're fired. Get the hell out of here. And he took that mindset, that apprentice mindset, into the political arena.
Right.
And still to this day, he doesn't have to say all of this stuff. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm going, why on earth, if you want to be reelected, are you talking about Haitians eating dogs and cats when there's absolutely no evidence that happened? You saw it on television. I saw Rodan on television, the giant monster bird.
Fighting Godzilla. Yes.
All right. Am I going to say Rodan is going to come and get us?
Yeah.
you saw it on television.
The thing I would say about Haitians eating, ducks or dogs.
Don't say anything.
No, I would say even if it did happen, it's not worth it.
It's not a government policy.
It's not. You're not. That's not.
Right.
You're not going to be. You can't stop a crazy Haitian from eating a cat, no matter how powerful you are. Don't even get into it.
It might have been an Irishman, all right, from Donegal.
That's right.
So it's Port-au-Prince is not issuing a statement saying, hey, one of our national policies, we eat all pets.
Yeah, I also kind of realize that the first debate with Biden was so gone and so off, and it was so, you see people lose debates like you see people lose prize fights, but you don't see fighters lose control of their arms in the ring. You know what I mean? They lose the fight, but they don't.
Biden never had control.
Right.
See, that's why it was so crazy. And I'm not a conspiracy guy, but there is a conspiracy going around that the Democratic Party knew that Biden was going to get waxed by Trump.
Yes.
And they pushed him into the debate, hoping he would fall apart.
Early. Yeah.
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 Now, that is a conspiracy theory.
I have heard it. Well, let's put it this way. I wouldn't put anything past anybody politically anymore. And if Biden isn't fully in charge, as we spoke to earlier, and other people are sort of calling the shots and making the decisions, and it's perfectly logical that somebody pushed him in to this arena, and people did predict it. I mean, there were people out there that said if he goes down in flames, he's going to get replaced. And it is it's a conspiracy theory that played out exactly as the conspiracy theorists said it was going to play out. So how big a conspiracy theory is it when it actually essentially happened? But I do always sort of, so they're always talking about Biden. They got to get him juiced up, have him drink a bunch of caffeine, give him his pep pills. I think Trump would benefit from bringing it down a notch. Maybe
and more precision.
Yes, just
precision.
Take the adrenaline, tune it, drink a little herbal tea, listen to some Enya. See if we could just bring it down, because he really, I think if you read the transcript of that, if you just simply read the transcript of the debate, you would read that Kamala Harris said nothing and that Trump made a lot of points that had to do with policy. But if you watch it, he just looks like an auctioneer on speed.
Yeah, and you can imagine what people in Shanghai are thinking when they don't see the debate, of course, because the Chinese censor everything, but they will see on social media the dogs and cats thing.
Right.
All right, and so all over the world, the perception is this guy's a nut.
Yes.
And Trump doesn't fight that perception by grasping onto these things that do not do him any good. It doesn't do it. Look, there is a shot that he's right about the 2020 election. It's possible. There's all kinds of unexplained Zuckerberg money. Where did all $300 million go? Nobody knows. Okay. I don't think it happened because I'm a hard news guy. I haven't seen any evidence, but it's possible. But what good does it do you to say it over and over and over? And people are just going, I've had enough. And now you got the Haitians eating the Cocker Spaniel. It's enough. And that's what hurts him. That perception that he's unstable, that he goes off on these wild tangents, because the presidency does require, and we haven't seen that, although Barack Obama knew it and did it fairly well, it does require some kind of credibility. Mm-hmm. And to say this crazy stuff just dashes the credibility. That being said, if you look at the 4 years that Trump governed, America was a much stronger country than it is now. Real wages were much higher than they are now. The guy did a pretty damn good job. But that is all clouded by this emotional garbage.
Yeah, what was interesting? I remember very clearly talking with Tucker Carlson and both sort of agreeing that Trump needed to hang back and let the person hang themselves, not bum rush them with verbiage all the time. Let them answer the question. Stop cutting them off. He didn't do himself any favors when he did that with Hillary Clinton and some other debates. So with Biden, because of Biden's condition, Trump did hang back because Biden was just sort of bum stumbling around. And then we all go, oh, you see, when they shut the mics and Trump hangs back a little bit, he lets the other person hang themselves. And this was effective for Trump. And then he threw that out the window and came back and got back into fast talking Trump for this one, which is interesting because he discovered a technique by happenstance because his opponent was severely impaired, essentially. But the quiet Trump is a much more effective Trump. And then he abandoned it again for this latest debate.
Yeah, because he took Kamala Harris's insults personally. So, you could see her doing it, the crowd size. All you had to do was say, hey, lady, look, you wish you got crowds as big as mine. Period. That's it. You don't have to go, you launch into this big crowd. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. Okay? So, look, nobody's perfect. Donald Trump did not have a good night in that debate, but he could still win. And Ronald Reagan is the best example because he got waxed, as I said, in 1984. He came back. He beat Mondale, big landslide. And I hope that people check out Confronting the Presidents because it is relevant to today. And look, if you want to know about any of these guys, there it is right in front of you, the truth. And we should know about our history. We who love the country should know, who were these people? How did they get there? How did they win? Because Kamala could win. I mean, if she does, we're all going to experience big pain. And it's like in California, you could move to Nevada. Okay, I'm going to have to move to Ireland. You know, if the wealth tax comes in, and I don't think I think it's unconstitutional. You can't seize private property according to our Constitution. She wants to. She would, except for her place in Brentwood. You can't touch that.
Well, you say unconstitutional, but if she stacks the Supreme Court, then it would be constitutional.
Absolutely.
If you do it right.
If you get down that road of progressive radical leftism, then anything can happen in this country. And that is the brawl. That is what you're voting on, or what we're voting on in November.
Last question and a half. So we talked about the worst presidents. Who were the best presidents, according to all your exhaustive research?
Well, Abraham Lincoln by far, because he stepped into the worst situation imaginable. The Civil War was a fait accompli. And Lincoln was a troubled man. He had a crazy wife. Where do you see Mary Lincoln? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And he deteriorated physically in the short time he was in office, but he conducted the war in a very efficient way, even though he had terrible generals. But they were that close. The Confederates, Robert E. Lee, was that close in Gettysburg to winning that and then coming into Washington. And Lincoln somehow prevailed, and he was a good man. Lincoln was a good man. He was kind. He was generous. All right. Others, George Washington, very good president, understood that this was chaos here, that he had to basically bring people together who hated each other, and did it. And then walked away after 8 years when Martha says, hey, you better come home or, else. And Martha, you didn't want to mess around with Martha Washington. You did not want to mess around with her. And George knew it. He had trouble with his mother. He didn't want trouble with his wife. Other good presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, one of my favorites, because he lifted the morale of America. Teddy, after coming off Grover Cleveland and McKinley and Harrison, I mean, my God, these guys, you want to emigrate to Romania with those guys in charge. Teddy comes in and he just, this force of nature, was a special on News Nation on Sunday about confronting the presidents. I called Teddy Roosevelt the Taylor Swift of macho men, which he was. And he did a tremendous amount for the environment.
He was so likable and popular as a macho guy.
And vibrant and a fair man, although he could have done more in the civil rights arena. Definitely could have done more. Harry Truman, what he was faced with when Franklin Roosevelt died down in Georgia with his mistress, that's an unbelievable story. And that's in Confronting the Presidents. Harry Truman was handed, and FDR never talked to Harry Truman. Harry Truman was not in any briefing at all. It was like he didn't exist. He was a haberdasher, and Franklin Roosevelt was this, big rich guy, and he looked down on Harry. Harry came in, he had to deal with all of this crazy stuff, and he did pretty well, Harry. And he was an honest man. So we don't rank them, we go through them. There's bad, there's good, and there's a few ugly, as Clint Eastwood would tell you.
And Carter doesn't crack the top 5 because of all the alcoholism and corruption.
He wasn't corrupt, Carter.
Right.
He was like Kamala, very similar. Nobody really knew what Jimmy Carter could do on a national level, but they took a chance because Ford pardoned Nixon. That's what killed Ford.
Right.
The pardon of Richard Nixon after Watergate. So Carter squeaked in. And when he got in, he didn't know what the deuce he was doing. He had no blanking clue what he was doing. He was not corrupt. Tried his hardest. But every foreign adversary took advantage of the United States, just like they're taking advantage of Biden.
Right.
Everyone said, this guy, he can't handle it. We're going to go and do what we want. So Carter is in the top 10 worst. But I'll tell you, after reading this book, Carolla, you're going to see some worse guys than Carter.
Yeah, I didn't suggest that he was corrupt. I was more incompetent. And it's interesting. They both kind of end up in the same place. We have Gavin Newsom in California. Is he corrupt? Is he incompetent? I don't know. We're still we end up in the same place. Confronting the Presidents. It's out as we speak. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Another triumph from Bill O'Reilly. Always great to speak to you, my friend.
Anytime, Carolla. Keep punching them.
I shall. Thank you very much, Bill. I'm going to be in Corona, California I'm going to be at the Dos Logos Amphitheater coming up this Sunday, and then Salinas after that at the Sports Complex. That'll be September 18th, and then Kimmel's Club, 2 shows over there September 19th. Go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows. Until next time, Adam Carolla for Bill O'Reilly saying mahalo.